Let's start the recording. Oh, I haven't plugged in, sorry. So today is a very hot day and air condition here is broken. So we will try to get it quick, hopefully. So what we will discuss today will be the DevOps, which means like when you get your application being developed and then you want other people, for example, you are into an interview and you want other people just access your application with a link and use it like a product, like how you do that. So this is basically what we are talking about today. And the the DevOps concept, I think we talked it very earlier when we starting this bootcamp. So the DevOps actually is two words. One is developing, one is operating. But in the older days, the developing and the operating are two separate roles. So developers just doing the code development in their local, and when they think they are ready, they were trying to ship it to operation team. Operation team were in charge of kind of buy the devices with the CPU, GPU, and build a server in house and manage all of the the public IP, IP4 address and the domain address, get that DNS router was being transferred to a specific server and doing the hosting. So that's the order days. However, like when the cloud computing was coming, there the gaps between these two becoming smaller and smaller. So because of that, the industry and the job title requires you needed to build your code, and then you also need to deploy your code as soon as possible after you have done the building. And on top of that, you will need the guy doing the development also doing the operation. So if you have a application was running on the production and you figure some bugs, and the guy who in charge of the developing also need to go back to check what's wrong in the production and go back to do a hot fix and deploy it to the production again. So this is basically when we're talking about the Git, why we say there is a hot fix branches, the reason where it's from. So the whole principle of this DevOps concept comes is we want your local development environment as similar, as close as possible with the production one. So the structure today, like we want to touch a very large concept about the DevOps, like the cloud engineer side, like use a Terraform, like doing the infrastructure as a code and push different staging environments on the cloud. We want to talking something about that. If you are interested, you can looking into that direction. There is a lot of resources there. If you want to understand what actually is a cloud engineer does, you can trying to search for the Terraform, and this currently is the most popular platform and the code tools for you to manage the infrastructure of your applications as a code and host it to the AWS, Azure, or the Google Cloud. So if you want to know more things, you can check this one. But what we were focused on today is for our stack, how can we get the application being deployed to somewhere and accessed by a URL? And when we do further development and the code changes, when we merge the code in, can we do the CI/CD, get the deployment automatically to the production? So that's what we were focused on today. And we were starting with the introduction and what's things we need as a preparation, and then how we're doing the front end develop a deployment and the platform deployment, and then is Python package deployment. In the end, we were trying to do a demo with the code we have demonstrated yesterday. And I think we only have 24 slides today. Considering the demo time, it will be considerably short. Then if we have time, we're starting to do the project demo end to end. So first is the introduction. When you're trying to do the deployment, then the front end with a Next.js, how should you deploy it? What's the tool you will do? The Next.js actually have a platform called Versary. This is a platform. So in the older days, we were needed to manually getting this kind of all of the front end in like build it as a static file and push the static file somewhere. For example, I have pushed it to the S3 bucket and do the CDN and deploy the caching to all the nodes across the world and get people to use it. However, things changed. Like the developers keeping doing the things is don't invent wheels by yourself again. So this like Next.js deployment nowadays is very, very simple and straightforward. We will demonstrate how to do that and have the automatic on CI/CD. For the backend and the platform side, oh, sorry, I haven't shared the screen. That's bad. So then for the backend side, how we do that? The backend we have said before, like the backend we was currently like orchestrating it is using the Docker and the Docker Compose file. We have mentioned that we shouldn't use the Docker Compose to deploy the data to production. That's true when you really want your product, like your product to be a production ready, and you starting get the like clients was onboarding and use it. Your data become very valuable. But nowadays, currently, we actually have wanted to have an online test environment. So what I will show you is using the Docker Compose file hosted like on the cloud and setting the Nginx like server with a domain and get it accessible by the URL. But like alert it's in front is like you can use this way to deploy your platform as a personal project. But when you're trying to get into like a company and deploy your whole platform stacks, don't do that. Use a Terraform and using the ECS container things to deploy all the things. But that's totally separate concept and a topic. And then in the last, as we mentioned before, can we containerize our Python package and deploy it? We will also give like a simple demonstration there. So what we will need upfront, we will need a domain for the platform and the front end. And we will need account anniversary. We have included the link here for the React and the Next.js deployment. We also need a server on the cloud with the IP4 address. So you can use this Lector. So that's a platform kind of is Australia's research platform. You can log in with your student account if you are a student. They will provide you one of the free instance. So you can use it for your deployment. That's one way you can get a server on the cloud. So you basically seeing what I just do is doing the login. So you use your student account. You can also log in and being allocated with one free server. And then another option is the AWS. So AWS actually also provided the free layers. It's actually is every month or every year they have the free layers of the EC2 instance. So you can also doing that. So you can see the free layer EC2 instance. That's like a 750 hours. That's probably less than an hour. Less than. So it says that many per month. So it should be enough for you to do the deployment. But the instance size will be quite small. But anyway, these two can get you to free instance for you to do the deployment. You can choose like either one, or you can choose some paid platforms. For example, I can show you something later. And then the last things we needed to like prox the DNS like a domain name to a server, and then like a prox that request to a specific like a backend running server like a process. So Nginx we're in charge of that as we mentioned before. So that's the all things we need. So first is we need the domain. I think everyone should know what is a domain, right? So you can see here we have this URL address is on the HTTPS, and this one is a domain, and this is a subdomain actually. So for example, this one is the same. So this is a domain, and you can have subdomain and subdomain. It all depends on you, but you can have a lot of diversity to do things like that. But to get started with, you need to buy a domain by yourself. It's quite cheap nowadays, actually. There are several different domain providers, like AWS provide the domain buying. Namecheap is another popular one. Cloudflare is another popular one. They all provide the domain buying ways. I can show you how to do it in the AWS if I still remember my account properly. So go to the AWS. It's near the two-way authentication. Let me try to figure that out. So that's kind of the security ways we mentioned yesterday. But anyway, so here you can see you can if you don't have account, you should go there to register account for the AWS. That will be super useful for your personal development. You can try to check all of their service. But to get the domain service, there is a subsecure service called router 53. That's actually named by the one of the road in the US. So I think it's 53 road or something. And then inside it, you can see here, you can enter a domain name and then you do the buying. If we want to get a domain for kind of an NLP or TLP group, we can type this in and do the check and see the price. You can see the nlptlp.com is only $40 a month or a year. This is actually a year. And you have other options to register the domains. And if you want to get some fancy name, because you probably wanted the AI's domain name, but I don't think the AWS provide that. But Namecheap probably providing that. However, the AI domain is very expensive. Does it provide the AI? Yeah, they provide it, but you can see it's more than $100 a year, Australian dollars a year. So compared to what we have before, is more expensive. And if we want to be ambitious and get a WA AI domain, it's basically not a, you want to be able to get it, or Perth AI domain, and you want to be, oh, you actually have that, but that's kind of $40,000. So this kind of special domains, it takes more money. But if you wanted to start with it and get your personal, like a domain being registered, for example, I can use it to register a personal domain for myself. It doesn't need to be the .com. It can be .io or .org or like a .me. It's all depends on you. They have different prices, but when you use it, it's the same. And if you want to buy it, you just select and then do the checkout. For example, I can select this one and do the checkout, and then you basically have 1 year of the domain belong to you. After you register the domain, it will showing up in your domain name. For example, this one here, that's kind of being registered. You have your domain name and they have the name server. And after this step, you basically finish your purchase of the domain from the register. But if you want to get the request from this website or this website, for example, this website is actually being hosting on my cloud, right? So for example, it's actually being hosting in this server, but this one actually have a IP address. How should I check my IP address? I don't really know. Doesn't matter. But it's actually an IP address there. If you wanted to get your DNS name pointed to that server and access your service, you need to add some record here, which is what you have seen here in the host zone. So it will have a concept called host zone, and then you can go inside it, and you can see I already have so many different DNS record there. The MX and NS actually is for the email. Oh, MX is for the email hosting. NS is just the name server. So when you type this domain name in your browser, it will go to this kind of name DNS server, and this DNS server will check the dictionary of which like a DNS, which IP address it should dispatch you to, and then doing the corresponding dispatch. So you can see I actually have a lot of different records here. The A name normally will corresponding with IP address, which is what I have done here. So you can see this one actually is using the IP4 address to do the hosting. And the C name is actually, so if you want to use a CNAME, CNAME is doing alliance of your domain name. So if you use a versary, they will have a default not that readable DNS name for you. But if you want to doing the prox from this name to the one you want to access, then you need to use a CNAME. So we will show you that later. So that's basically the second step. You need to have the DNS record and understand when to use the CNAME and when to use a record. In our scenario is for us, we will need to use the CNAME for our front-end deployment and use the a record for our platform deployment. And then what is Versary when we're trying to do the deployment? Versary is a tool for you to do the deployment, as we have said earlier. So you can see basically from here, you can have this building log. Like you connect it to your one of your repo, and it will directly running this kind of build process. So you can see after it's built, it's generating these kind of static files and then host it somewhere and assign you I assign you this like a default URL address. And then what you need to do is update your domain with a CNAME, so you can be able to access that. So that's a versary and what is used for. And then is Nginx. What is Nginx? We mentioned before. So Nginx is something, so you have so many users on the website trying to come in, but you probably have a data center, or you just have one server, and this one server, you have actually multiple process was running in the background. And when the user come in, you don't want these two users affect each other. So you need to do the load balancing, trying to dispatch them to the like each proper corresponding door. So this is what the Nginx is doing. Nginx is in the front. So when the user hits a URL, and the URL will put like the DNS server will point this like a URL hit to this server, and this server will based on the URL's name and the like a subdirectory name and doing the prox and the prox to corresponding process or corresponding server and then doing the running. So this is what the Nginx doing. When we're doing the practice, you will understand this like a better in like a by hand. And then it's HTTPS and certificate. Like why we need to use HTTPS, we have mentioned yesterday. If you're using the HTTP protocol before, for example, you put the password in and access these endpoints and transfer this password across the internet, the hacker can hijack your request anywhere in between and get your password. However, if you have HTTPS, it means in the front end, it will be encrypted. And when it's transferring on the internet, when the hacker was trying to hijack your request in the between, what they get is an encrypted password. So they, without the server's private key, they won't be able to know your password. So in this way, it's more secure. So that's basically a standard protocol nowadays across the whole internet. Google actually will alert the user, says like your visiting website is not the HTTPS, so you need to like considering about protect your personal information. That's potentially is a phishing website or the risky website. So that's what's the HTTP for. And what's a certificate? Because you need the HTTPS, then you probably on the server you need to sign the like a secret key, and then doing this encryption, decryption things. And if you use the AWS one or use some like the online one, it will be extremely expensive. For some of the enterprise levels of the HTTPS encryption, it's probably will cost you 10,000 a year. But you know, like that's the internet today, so people don't want to pay that much money. So they have this open source certificate bot, which will allow you to install this tool on the server. And when you install it on the server, you can doing the sign with like a private permission key on the server. And then you doing the signature and get the HTTPS work. We will also show how we get that working later. So first is the front end. So when we're trying to deploy the Next.js, how we will do that? They actually have two commands. One is Next.js build generate, and another thing is you need to get this generated static file somewhere. So you can see this command is what you will run to doing the building, and you will see something like this when it's compiled successfully. And then the next stage is it will create a static file folder called .next.js, and inside it you will see the static. The static will have the CSS, JavaScript, and the images inside it. The server, because Next.js is actually a full stack framework, so you can actually write the server side scripts there, which means on your server side, you need to also deploy a server there. But this is not a case in our scenario because we haven't used Next.js server-side scripts, so we don't need to worry about this. The caching one is basically the building caching for next time. You don't need to regenerate it. So what the most important part for the Next.js deployment is actually this folder. And we needed to get it hosted somewhere. And to deploy the front-end Next.js with Vercel, you just need to connect your GitHub repo to the Vercel and select the Next.js as a framework you are using, click deployment, and it will automatically do it for you. And then you add the CNAME record for your domain, and it's done. That's all you need when you're trying to deploy the front end. And for the platform side, it's a bit more tricky. So the general steps you need to follow is you need to have a Ubuntu 2022.4 server or any server you prefer, but I would recommend this one for you. That's kind of the most popular one. And then as we have done in the dev environment setup, you need to install your Docker on your server and install the Nginx on your server. Then you need to set up the Nginx to make sure your DNS name like your URL comes, and then it will be proxed to the proper places. And then you need to put your code to the server and run the Docker compose up and get it running in the background. And then change the DNS A record to prox your domain URL request to that server. So that's basically the steps you need to follow to get your platform deployed. How to install the Nginx is also very simple. You just sudo apt install Nginx and start it, enable it. You can check the status of it. But Nginx will have its own configuration file, so it will be inside of this etc Nginx size enable. You can create one of the configuration file within this folder. So you can see listening AT port, which will means HTTP request. And then you put your server name there. So this will be your for example, will be like a pers.ar or nlp.tlp.org, something like that. And then this is the one to do the prox. For example, you want to, if it's a root directory of that URL, you want to proxy it to the 300. And if it's API, you want to proxy it to the 800. That's normally how you do it. But we will give you a template about how you deploy the platform in our context. So you can kind of learn from that template. But overall, it's using this idea here. And after you get this configuration file was being created under this folder and get that set up, then you should do the sudo nginx restarted to restart the nginx to make this configuration file works. However, until now, then you won't be able to access the HTTPS. You still need to using the certbot to trying to get that up and running on that server. And then we can see here, like we have mentioned in this step, say we need to put the code in the server and run the Docker compose up. Until now, we haven't actually get the code to the cloud. So how can we do that? That's basically where the CI/CD from. In the front end of the code, the CI/CD already been handled by the GitHub webhook. So whenever you have a PR request or the merge behavior, or you have a push to the GitHub repo, because you have already connected that repo with Vercel, then it will automatically trigger the building process. So CI/CD actually already been handled in the front end by the Vercel. However, for the backend, because we have our own customized platform and the server, we need to do it by ourselves. So we need to use a GitHub Action. GitHub Action is a pretty popular CI/CD ways to do the continuous integration and deployment. we will show you how to do that. But this basically is an example how should you write your GitHub CI/CD configuration file. So basically, you give it a job and which branch will trigger this deployment access, and then give it a name and what's like a server it will running on top of. This will say I will run all my corresponding command on top of the Ubuntu latest. And the first step is I want to configure and zip my code into a zip folder, zip file, and then I will upload it to the server. So it will use this GitHub action like a process. So this will give you the capability to configure what's like a host name, what's a username, what's a password, and what's a port here. And your source is what you have kind of zipped here, and it will be uploaded to the target location on that server. And then is the next step is you need to run in some command to get your code being deployed. So this is how it works. So you basically need to specify what's the host name, what's the username, you do it again. And this SSH action is doing these script things. So the script things will be running on top of on this server here, and then running this one to get your server being deployed. Nowadays, you can doing these all declarations here by the GitHub action and easily to getting it done by these free resources. In the older days, you use Ansible and write the script by yourself. And every time when you're trying to deploy it on the server, you need to run it on your local with this all of the commands one by one. You just write like a wrapped like a script here. But nowadays, all of these development tools are provided by the GitHub, and it's all very mature and easy to use. And you can see here what we are doing is we have a secret and the service host and the username and password. It is, of course, like you shouldn't get them committed into your code. But how you doing that? GitHub actually provided you the capability. You put your server host, the secrets inside their settings. So how to do that is following these steps. You go to the GitHub settings, you go to the secrets and variables. In the action, you add a new repo secret and put the name there. This will be the secret name on the left, and then this will be your personal like IP address there. So it will then be pulled by this process and get that done. And this data will be processed securely, so you don't need to worry about anything there. And then the last part is how to deploy the Python package. We actually mentioned that before already. So there is a lot of ways. Two mainstream, one is doing the container deployment, one is doing the serverless deployment. Serverless deployment normally is running by the Lambda function on the AWS or the Azure functions. But we will just get it containerized and running locally. That's what we will do, because that's simple and straightforward, currently meet all our requirements. So we were starting to do our demo first now. The demo goal will be I think we have 3 repos created in the very beginning when it's a bit slow for the internet here. So when we starting this bootcamp, and I think on the first Thursday, we actually created 3 repos. One is a front-end UI, one is a platform, another is a machine learning module. So the front-end UI, we should connect it to the bursary. That's where the Next.js was being provided. I actually uploaded our latest code there. And another one is a platform. So the platform will be the one we running all of the code there, like yesterday, the backend codes. And this is a machine learning model. We actually haven't done anything here. So first thing first, we get the front end to be deployed. So to get a front end deployed, all we needed to do is we need to click add a new project. And then I don't really think I'm not sure, but let's try, because it's okay. But if you are the personal account in the GitHub, you actually can using it free. But because I actually created a team account in the GitHub. So it's actually doesn't provide that much free access for me. So it just give me the free for 2 weeks. But this shouldn't give you that like a note here. But basically, what we just shown there is you just need to switch to your account and select the repo you want to deploy it. And then you click the deploy. Hopefully that works. Okay. And you can see the deployment action is queued. And you can check the deployment record here. So this is actually when you're trying to build it, what you will run locally. So to do a comparison, we will try to. So what actually been running on the cloud? What's been running in the cloud here? You can see the command. First is installing the dependency, which is the npm install or the thing. So it's still in that process. But for us, we actually already done that. What we need to do is you need to check the package.json. So you can see here, there is a dev, build, and start, and linked. You can do it both ways. So if you want to run it this way, next build, it will starting to do the building process. That will eventually be something running on the cloud here. So you can see it's starting to run the command we just running. It says arrow. Okay, that makes sense. So yeah, you can see it's actually running the same thing as what we running locally, and it's showing up an arrow because we actually running the TypeScript. So if it's TypeScript and you haven't passed the lint and the type check, you won't be able to get your front-end code being built and deployed. So what I need to do here is I need to fix it. So if I want to fix it, first it will tell me it's this code now haven't been used, so it cannot doing the build. So I delete that. And then it says 169. It says this cannot be escaped. So I probably just change it to another words. So this kind of being solved. And then in the API side, it says in the line 11, the data type any, you need to specify a different type. You shouldn't do the any because we are in the TypeScript. We will try to fix that later. We're just doing the build again. So actually run the build, you have another way to run it because you have declared in this one here, say build, we'll run this command. So another way you can run it is npm run build. This we're looking for here, okay, what's the build command? And then it will eventually run this command. So you can see here, and trying to do it, you can see it's starting run the next build. And then it's have the same error as before, but the previous two have been solved. So for us is this data type any have the problem. So we do the same thing as we have done yesterday. We go to the Cloudy. We ask it these things. So why this happened, you must understand it. This happened is because we are using a TypeScript. So it enforces the type check. So you cannot declare a data type as any. So I want to fix that. So I put the code and an arrow in to see what's the Cloudy will give me. Okay, it's actually updated with something. Let's see whether this will work. Okay, it's still not working, but this time is another code problem. It says 93. So that's kind of yesterday when we're doing the code, we are doing some hacking things. So we need it to fix this line of code to make it TypeScript safe. And so the TypeScript is basically this one here. So you need to declare the type of it. But for this function, we haven't declared it. The easy fix is, I think we just need to do this. So you can see it's actually doing this, but it's doing more. You can see they actually doing things more safer and what I have done. So I probably will copy their code. But these two ways should both works. We solve another one and we do the test locally to see whether we can get this problem solved in the building process. Okay, to have another problem is 145. And this is something you can see with a WebSocket. Oh no, WebStorm. It's actually already detected this kind of errors for you. So I just needed to copy this side and ask it to get this TypeScript safe. So when you're writing your code, or when you put the prompt to the Cloudy, you need to ask it when it's generated the TypeScript code, JavaScript code. You need to ask it specifically to generate the TypeScript code for you. Otherwise, it will be some situation like what I have facing now. But let's see what it's doing. It's actually, so it's creating 3 customized interface. So look, if you're not really familiar with this kind of syntax things, you still can get that done, right? Because you can see it here. How can we do that? You probably just dump the code to it and ask it to fix for me. So you basically, the large language model will give you some code. For example, here, it's give me advice, how should I fix my code? But like I should check their code as a learner. So what it's doing compared to my provided code before is actually doing 2 things. One is it's created an interface, which is a type of the data, and it's solving the problem directly from here. And then it's updating this code like I was providing to assign, like declare the item with the data type. So that's what it's doing. This means when I read their code and I don't know how to write the code, then I should read it and I learn from it. I know, okay, I should fix the code this way. But you can do it more violently, is give them all the code and ask it to fix it safely for you. I can do that, but I don't really recommend the same way you should do it as early stage, because you will lose yourself when you're doing this developing. So it's solving the problem for me. So let's trying to see whether this time it can fix the problem. It's actually fixing this one, but we have another one pop out. Then we need to, or I should get this done earlier, but that's a good learning opportunity for everyone to know how we solve this problem. So you can see it's doing the same thing. It's just declaring what's the children type of it. So the children type of it will be the React load. So all you need to do is copy this code here, and you can see from the Next.js, it's the web song. It's haven't declared the arrows again. So let's try again. Okay, this time it's working. There is no error anymore. So remember, just now we have doing this, but it says it's erroring, which means it's not that good. And then just now we have changed several codes and make it work. So we say we fix multiple code type of script problem. And then we do the push. So you can do the git push, or you use a WebStorm ways to do the git push. And let's see whether we have this project already. So we have this project being created already, and we just doing a push. You can see this one here, because we just do a push, it's automatically trigger the building process on this versary. So you don't really need to do the CI/CD again. You just need to wait for it to doing the coding. And we just need to wait. That's what I mean when I mentioned in the like a front end deployment, we don't really need to worry about the CI/CD side. This is what it is doing. So it will take a while trying to do this kind of building process. But I know it will definitely fail later, but we will see what it will happen. it will definitely fail because you can see in our code, we actually haven't do proper things. For example, here, we are hard coding this backend, like URLs. So if we are deploying this to the production, we probably want it to access another places, not the local host 800. And the same thing happened in this Apollo here. So we needed to get this harder coded part to be environment variable. Then we spot that issue. We ask it, get this to be accessed from environment variable. So in this way, you can basically in your local, you will point it with the environment variable hosted to the local host 800. If it's a cloud, you will have your own platform running and it will go to the platform side. So how you doing the environment variable? This is a standard way you're doing it in the Next.js. So you can see it here is we're using this process.env and the next public API URL. If we cannot find this variable, then it will go into using this one. So we just copy this and then come to here and copy it in. But you can see in this instruction, it asks us to create a .env local in the project root. And then put this value in. And also it wants us to do the env production. And put this in. This will be the later our platform URL. And it wants us get the local to be put in the git igloo file. So because you don't want to share it with cloud like other teammates. And also this will be the places you testing and trying to update it on your local environment. So you don't want it to share with other people. And then you can use it that way. But I don't think one thing is you need to start your environment variables with next public. That's kind of what's framework of Next.js was pointed. They will only go to the .env something and looking for some variables starting with next public. But I think it haven't mentioned how can I ensure my npm run or npm run builds will access prop corresponding env file. It's actually haven't done anything like that. So that's actually a question you should ask. You can see it says you should do it in the scripts, which is what we have seen in the package.json. So what we will do here is, what they say, they have actually two options. One is you need to specify it here in the package.json and doing these different types of things. Another is you use this library and then you can specify what's the environment you want to access. But yeah, still haven't say how can we match the local and the production or env with the different build command. Let's see what it's saying. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for actually. So you need to install a new environment variable called this. And then you need to update we just mentioning in the package.json. And it's error. What happened? It's actually have the error. Anyway, we were fix this afterwards, but let's go back to the versary and check our hosted this one. So you can see it's actually successful. And then you can come here trying to do the loading, but it's still spinning as a loading file because in the network, you can see that's the problem I just trying to solve because in the background, when it's trying to access a backend here, it's actually pointing to the wrong endpoints. That's why this one still keep loading. That's the problem I was facing. But until now, you can see the front end action is up and running, and we have the login domain yesterday, so you can see the login is there. So the front end actually already been deployed. The only problem is haven't been hooked with the proper backend. We were trying to fix it as what we just do, but the next thing we want to do is we wanted to configure its domain to be the one as yours. So you can come here as what's the, let's see where I can configure the domains. Here, you can go to the domains. And then for myself, I probably just add it as, oh no, and add this as a domain. But you can see it's asking you to add this CNAME in your in your record. So you just need to go to the AWS and host name, and then you need to create a record. The record on the left side should be this, which is being provided here, and the right side should be this, and this one should be CNAME, and then you click create this record, and it's being created. So here it will keep refreshing, and you can see it's working, and it will automatically generate the SSL certificate for you. So you don't need to worry about the SSL things for the front end. But while it's doing that, you can see this URL was accessible now. Still doing the SSH assign. Let's need to wait a minute. Let's go back to solve this problem. In the front end, we want to get it pointed to different environment variables. So the front end alone is actually already being fixed. What is saying here? Why? If there are other ways. Actually, we have other ways to solve it. We don't really need to get that set up properly. But if you're doing that in your local, you should try to fix it in that way. Let's try to get the backend up and running now. So for now, when we're trying to do the localhost 300, is actually haven't accessed any of these two environment variables because we haven't specified the environment variables to do the hook. And this one, the Apollo one actually already doing it in the environment variable way. So we should give it a setting here. So let's set it up here. And in the .env. For the production one, it should be a different one. For example, we were trying to say our API address is Django demo AI for w.com. And let's just put the placeholder here as Cloud One. Later is we should do this kind of later when we're trying to get it deployed. We'll use this to as a environment variable for our cloud environment. Then what I can do is I can come back here. You see, like here you can actually define your environment variable. Just now in the local, I'm trying to switch between different environment variables, but I haven't been able to do it successfully. However, for the production, what you can do is you just set in the environment variable here and change it. So for now, I save it like this. It's getting being updated. And to get the variables to be in deployment, we need to rerun this deployment. So we go here and we say redeployment. It will redo the deployment again, but it will trying to use the environment variables we just set to build that static file and put that in the code. And in the front end, you were using the new one. So let's waiting for that to be done. But at the same time, we're trying to deploy the backend. So deploy the backend, I will need a server, which is a Ubuntu server. Open one from the AWS is a bit annoying, so I will try to use one easier to be up and running. Let's see whether this can work. This is probably not working. Let's try to use the AWS EC2. And then we can open a EC2 instance. Where is the EC2 instance? Why it's not loading? Okay, it's loading instance. Actually, already have one running. I will launch another instance. So I call it a demo. I said I want to use Ubuntu, and I potentially want to use this one. So I will confirm. And then it will have different architectures, like choose a x6, this one, and choose just a small one because small one will be free tier. You can see here it's free. And for the security group firewalls, for now we just get it to be the safest one. So it will allow the SSH from anywhere, HTTP and HTTPS request. So that was default. And for the storage, like 8 gigabytes is too small, so I want to get it larger. So in this way, I basically get it configured. I want to create a new instance, but I think I need to set up the key pairs. I need to generate a new one. So if you are trying to do it using it, then you also need to generate a new one. So I was doing it is a demo one. I think this already been teaching in the cloud computing. So you should be able to know that if you have learned the cloud computing one. And then we're trying to launch the instance. At the same time, you can see here is I have a permission one. Normally, you will use username and password with to the login, but this one is a bit tricky. So I will need to put this demo in and demo document. I get that being processed properly. And then this instance was being created. It will have this public address. And then if you don't know how to do the login to this server, we can go back to ask the Cloudy to do that. So Cloudy will ask us, how can I access AWS EC2 instance with demo.pm? So it will give you the command. Okay, it's not here people. Because I know it, so ask it to generate the command for me. Hmm? Okay, it's not helpful. Then we just try to do it by ourselves then. So we have the action, I think. We have the connect action. So we have this username, and we actually can connect it via this interface. But I more prefer to connect from local. It's trying to establishing the connection, and it's in. So I need to do the ABT update as we have mentioned before. This one we're going to go to the cloud, trying to figure out the information like from the like ABT installers cache server and trying to pull that down. So after this, you can install the latest like a package you will need. For example, we will install the Nginx as we said before. Git install Nginx. So this will get the Nginx installed. I think this installation process should be done. So our API things. So you can see the server thing is actually working. So you can see the domain is working here. But I don't think the pooling to the backend will be work because what we just is updating the backend code to a different UI. So let's check whether the UI was pointing to the proper places. It's still local host, so it haven't been updated properly. Let's solve that later to see this one here. And next things we want to install is install Docker. We actually have that command provided, but that's kind of the process you need to do in the like upfront manually when you're trying to do this. And it's giving all of the commands I need. So I just copy it and put it here to doing this updating. And let's go back to fix first problem we're facing there. Like it's not getting it from the environment web. That's because I haven't pushed this code to the cloud. So updated the code to use environment variable for API endpoint and then push it to the cloud. Then the front end should be able to have that CI/CD. At the same time, the backend we're still doing this installation. But because we just already installed the Nginx, so it should works with the Nginx server. So you can see this is Nginx server's default thing. Why that will happen is because just now in my command previously, I installed the Nginx server and it's automatically get it up and running. So you can see these things here as Nginx with this IP address. So we in the front end, we was mentioning is in our domain, it's trying to go to this one here and the environment variables to find out what we want to put in the environment variables domain name. We need to refresh it. You can check it here. So this will be the like a DNS and the server we will want to host it there. So after this, we should be able to get that be setted. It's doing this kind of things again. So this normally in the order this is done by a kind of operation people. So that's where the DevOps, the ops people doing. Ops people normally handling it with this kind of interface. think at the same time, we're trying to create an account on the Ubuntu server. Okay, so it should be working now. Let's see the Docker. The Docker command is up and running. Then, and also why we see that nginx page is actually being shown here. This is why this one here, this code here is why we see this page here. So we will need to change this into another configuration. But before we do that, we will want to get a new user and have the get it able to use a password to do the login. So how we do that is just using this command here. New username, password, new password. Let's try to do it this way. Okay, it's been created successfully. And then I needed to update it to allow the username password login. So I will go here. It's asking me to do. Find this one. So password authentication. Or go here to. So it's currently is. So I get this being updated, and then I needed to restart my SSH, and it's supposed to keep kicking me out. It haven't. Okay. Let's try to see whether we can log in directly with a username and password. No, it's wrong. Let's figure out what's the username we're just using. New username at the this permission delineated. Okay, we have some problem there. But let's see let's first confirm the last deployment is actually working. So we first get the front end proper, and then we come to fix this backend problem. So the front end, it's just the update is working. So we have this updating page. Then because we have set the environment variables, we want it to point to the proper one we have setting. Let's see whether it's have done that. So it's saying this. Okay, still not working. That's pretty bad. We potentially cannot get this demo working probably. Let's try to check the logs. No, it's not wrong properly. Okay, anyway. We will try to get a username password login to the server now. Trying to get a backend working so we can hook them together. It's not working now. Let's see what's it saying. Okay, it's asking me to log in into it. So let's try. We are in. So the difference is with the two ways, we just doing the login. This way is doing the security permission login, and another way is using the password login. But the password way login is kind of not that secure because everyone can go there and update your password, like using a password and hacking. So normally people will prefer the ways to doing the permissions thing. But what I want to achieve is I wanted to get it later in the GitHub CI/CD action. I can automatically get the things, like get the server was being delivered to there. So I wanted to get the username password working. Permit root login. No, and public key authentication, yes. And let's try again this time to see whether it's working with this instruction. And we needed a new username ways to do the login. Oh, it's still not working. Okay, change of the plan. We will do the CI/CD later, but we were first just to get the cloud running. So we were using this one to deploy the backend. That's so because the challenging is now I need to add a SS permission key to my GitHub repo and then clone my code to my local. Oh no, I don't need to do that because my code actually is public available. So that's solve this issue. Then what I need to do is I just need to go to here and do the git clone. I don't have the access right. Oh, this is a public. I should have access right. Oh, because it's public, you definitely can be able to just pour it on your local. Just to know why I'm trying to do that way is because I want you to deploy your private one. So let's try git clone and yeah, this times works. So AI for W. And we have the code on this cloud. Then if we want to get it up running, just now we install the Docker. So we should be able to have the capability to get the all the service up and running like what we have done locally. So you can see it's starting to do the building. And then I actually needed to update the Nginx service permission stuff, like the configuration to get it being able to proxy it properly. So I will try to, for example, the admin, the Django server, if I want to deploy it to the cloud, if I doing it this way, what I can do is I need to create it let's go to, I need to go to the configuration file in the Nginx sites enabled. And then I don't need this default one. I get them removed. Because I'm the root user, I can do anything I want. So I just remove it. This is a pretty dangerous command. So if you don't really know what you are doing, don't do it. And then I have this Django configuration. I put that in and I put this in. What I put in the setting here. Wait a minute. deployments setting in my variable. What's the domain I planning to put? I planning to put this domain. So I will copy this domain and then update this one here as a new server name. So you shouldn't put the HTTPS there. And after this is basically trying to do you can see that it's defaulted to the AD. So you should be able to prox. If you have a DNS, like a record, your request from this subdomain will be proxed and will be go to this server, and Nginx will detect you have this server name and then prox your request to this port, so you can access Django's backend here. So let's save it and waiting to the Django to be up and running. See how many. None of the Docker containers actually up and running now. We're waiting for that. At the same time, we go to the root 53 host names, host zooms, and we go to this one here. And then we need to create a record. And what we put in the Django.config is this one. So we need to put it here. That's the domain. And what's the IP address? The IP address is this one here. So you're doing this one, you put the IP address, you have a record was being created. And in theory, what's the domain? Oh, here. In theory, you should be able to point to this one. But because you can see it's already, just now we have that welcome to the Nginx, but we haven't, we deleted, we haven't restarted the Nginx container like service, Nginx service, so it's still defaulted to this HTML. So you can see when we point this kind of domain name, subdomain name here, is kind of goes through the DNS server from the AWS and pointed to this IP4 address. And in the IP4 address, it's automatically pointed you to here. And as I said, it's not secure because it's not HTTPS. So we were waiting and getting, okay, the front end, we can see in this logs, the containers for the front end is actually up and running already. Then we will do the Nginx restart. It will restart the Nginx service and get our latest configurations into effect. We probably need to wait a while. Why it's so slow with the Nginx? It's normally should be very quick. Oh. SSH demo. Okay, I think I know why. Because I don't really have very high performance of my instance is very small, so you can see it's doing a lot of CPU utilization. So it's kind of a bit hang out because so many containers was up and running. So it's very slow now. It stopped access, like responded to my request. Let's wait to see what will happen here. If not, we probably need to use another server to do this. It will takes a long time to do this demo. If that's the case, we were trying to spin up our instance. So why we're using the cloud platform is because you can doing the scale up and scale down very easily. So for example, the setting here, we can change the instance types. But to change the instance types, you need to get it stopped. So I need to I will get this. So the next thing I plan to do, I will get it shut down, and then I will try to scale it up, have a better configuration of this instance for our demonstration purpose. So it is stopping now, and then I want to do the instance setting when it's been stopped. When it's stopping, it should be kick you out, but it's because it's not accept any TCP request, so it's kind of hanging out. That's also the normal situation you are facing in your production when you're trying to deploy your own applications. So always check your specifications whether that's enough or not. But it's very slow. Why it's very slow, I'll probably take you walk through with the same setup and how I doing the like NGX configurations. So let's go to the NGX site in Apple. So you can see just now I actually copy the code from this file and doing my settings. So that's the example what I'm doing. But this one here is HTTPS configuration is actually managed by the certbot. So you can see this one is doing the Django's procs. And then the Azure's procs is something like this. So you can see like it's using the GQL and proxy it to 8080. And in the original version of the server configuration, you just have this, and then it will default, like when you're doing the certbot starting, it will default to have like this, create this all of the permission like certificates. And the same thing happens for this vector database. The vector base is the same. This port is this one. And then you have these subdomains and getting this up and running, and you're running the certbot. Sudo certbot. And it will give you the capabilities to doing the certbot issue and getting these kind of things up and running. So that's what we were trying to do in the configuration file. But let's see whether this server is stopped or not. We can get them scaled up. It's still stopping. Oh, AWS. That's very bad. Probably need to wait a while. I think we probably won't be able to get the end-to-end deployment being demoed today. Then in this scenario, I'll probably get it offline and record a video and show you guys how to do that. But for now, I will wait for this one and at least show you how to get the Django deployment being set up properly, and then how can we get the SSH certificate being issued. Why this one is so slow? We have the both stop. Let's try this command. I think we won't be able to gracefully stop it. It's still stopping. Can try another service. If that's quicker, let's try to say. So this kind of Versary is another platform you can get the cloud compute. So if you want to deploy it, you can. It's similar as okay as AWS. I think it's get you the capability to do it with EC2 server. So we have a new server and we want the Ubuntu. Where is Ubuntu? Why this one? Yeah, that stopped. Oh, okay, it's stopped. Then we're doing a scale up of the instance, and then we get this part working. Change instance type, and then when you're trying to do the scale up, you come here because for now it's micro, so it's too small, and we probably wanted to get a large one. Let's try a A1 large. It will give you the comparison, but the architecture is not something I need. Oh, this is ARM chips, so we will go to the C1. But you can see the price is also changed with this one here. Let's try C3. Yeah, let's change it to this one. And then get it started. It will start the instance, and then we should be able to get the NGX being restarted and running. Okay, it's up. Then let's try to log in again. Connect. You can use this one connect also. They have so many tools. But it still takes time for it to be initialized and properly working. That should be the same scenarios when you're trying to do it by your own. Okay, it's up and running. So it should have the NGX restarted. And I need to get the backend code was running so we can be able to access it via this URL. Yes, it's up and running. And then we have this URL and we get that being set up properly. To get the certificate running, then we need to do certbot for nginx Ubuntu and see what the command is giving. For now, okay, it's the backend is actually running. Just the for now, our only problem is nginx server is not running properly. Let's get the nginx restarted to see whether that resolve the problem. also the certbot things. We needed to install this one to do the HTTPS thing. So we were trying to get this working first. And then we do the, so it's getting that was running. So then we do the certificate. Then it's asking, this is just a setup. They send you the spam emails. So after this, you're doing the Gmail. And you need to agree. So in this way, they were doing the signatures for the HTTPS in the background. I'm not sure why until now it's still not responding to my request. Potentially it's because okay, this one seems not working in the router 53. So Jungle, this one. I think there are some issues with the DNS. So it should easily working, not something like this. Oh, firewall issue. Let's see. It's trying to go to the instance to do the debugging. Go to this instance and normally these things happens here. Security group. It's trying to update these inbound rules to be anything. So or TCP and save rules. And outbound rules. It's the same VPC tags. Okay, that's was fine. And let's try to do the get again. It's still not working. I think I probably positive now, and I will figure out why and give an update later. But generally, this is most of the demos today. The content and idea is in this demo. I will go to the offline and trying to get this the code being up and running in the demo and show you guys how to do that later today. But this is things we have done now. You guys have any questions for this deployment thing? I think we haven't successfully done that. It's definitely some problems happen for the AWS things. Normally, when I'm using a server from a different party, they will have more freedom, so I can do more hacky things, so it can be easier done. But anyway, until now, is any problems online and offline? I think if not, we will probably wrap it for today, and I will upload the work solutions later today on cloud. And for tomorrow, we were still doing it in the Robot Street because this room will be taken. And we were trying to do a demo with this project. So it's called a chat to map with the metadata. I have put some like descriptions here. So we were trying to get that demo on tomorrow about how we develop a full stack applications. Hopefully we don't have much problems as it is today, but I think that's most of it now. And tomorrow, if you, as Jichuan was send in the channel, if you want to get the certificate, you should send him your email address and your name. So we were trying to give you tomorrow. So that's all for the day. Thank you guys. I will conclude. Stop the recording.